These alleys have witnessed all kinds of things. They hold many secrets. They could reveal a lot about the women who call it home. Narratives that also tell us the dark truth about the people who visit these alleys. Narratives that we collectively build as a society.
Some men come to us after an argument with their wives. They come here to feel good. If we are not in this profession, where would they go?
People are usually shocked if I tell them that I am a sex worker. Discrimination is part of our everyday lives.
I entered this profession because of some compulsions, but that does not mean that I should not be entitled to basic human rights and dignity. I want to be treated equally like other people.
These red light areas are dedicated to what is considered to be one of the oldest professions in the world: sex work. It is a practice where sexual services are offered in exchange for money. Sex work is prevalent in almost all countries and in every type of society. According to Foundation Cells, an organization that fights against sexual exploitation, there are 40 to 42 million prostitutes in the world. 80% of them are female. 75% of them are between the ages of 13 and 25. And more than 9 out of 10 prostitutes depend on a pimp. Over $180 billion is spent each year on the global sex trade. These statistics indicate that the profession is extensively practiced across the world. Yet, people are deeply divided on the issue of prostitution. Is it harmful and exploitative, or is sex work a legitimate form of labor? Should it be legalized? And what about morality? Currently, sex work is legal in over 80 nations across the world. Prostitution laws vary widely from country to country and between jurisdictions within the same country. In India, sex work has existed from time immemorial.
The very first incident which is recorded in Buddhist texts, in Jain texts, is that of Ganika. You know, Gana means a group of people, and Ganika is someone who belongs to a group of people or the city, you know. So, who was she? She was someone who was trained in dance, in music, in painting, in literature, even in astronomy and philosophy. Next category is that of Devadasi, which is the references begin to come up in the 5th century AD, the Gupta period. Devadasi were in the temple because as a part of a prayer, you know, when you pray to God, singing and dancing was part of it. The next category of women who were also artists and performers are Tawaif. So with the Muslim and the Mughal period came another category of women who were artists. They were dancers, they were performers, singers. The Devadasi brought up Bharatnatyam. You know, we owe them Kuchipudi, Mohiniyattam. All of these things are done by Devadasis. You know, on the other hand, the Tawaif, which is in the Mughal period, brought Kathak.
The the current statistics suggest that there are 825,000 female sex workers in India. Despite being a veritable industry, sex work seems to be sketchily legal in the country. To understand the legalities related to sex work in India, Team WION spoke with advocate Tripti Tandon, who is currently representing the sex workers community in a case at the country's apex court.
So we have a law called the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. It was enacted in 1956, and at that time it was called the Suppression of Immoral Traffic Act, or SITA. And the act had a very peculiar structure in the sense that sex work in itself was not illegal. So one could, have sex in exchange for money or any other remuneration. That was not an offense. So sex work as an activity was not illegal, but activities around it, such as running a brothel or having the services of a manager or what we call pimp to attract customers, was illegal. This act was underwent substantial changes in the year 1986, when it was also renamed the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act.
In 2011, the Supreme Court dismissed the appeal of a man who was accused of murdering a sex worker in the city of Kolkata. The case then led to the court's decade-long monitoring of efforts to rehabilitate sex workers. On the 19th of May 2022, the Supreme Court's three-judge bench, headed by Justice L. Nageswara Rao, categorically recognized that the basic protection of human decency and dignity under Article 21 of the Constitution of India also extends to sex workers and their children.
We adopted our constitution in 1950, and we are in 2022, and this is the first time that the court has said that sex workers have the same rights that other people. That's why it is so seminal, the order. And then there are some very specific directions which are given, and the first is that whenever sex workers complain of violence or they're assaulted, the police usually don't treat their complaints seriously. So the court has categorically said that like you register complaints of other women for sexual violence, sex workers should be treated the same way. The second part of the order is that even otherwise, the police, their attitude towards sex workers is brutal. It's completely demeaning, disrespectful. So the court has specifically directed that no such violence will be tolerated. A police attitude has to change. They must be sensitized. The third pertains to media, the way the media has tended to report on sex workers, which has obviously contributed to the social stigma and prejudice. Fourth is another very, very important direction. Under the law, there are provisions for rehabilitation, but what it entails is just dumping a woman, locking her up in a protection home. There's no rehabilitation. And so the court has said that state governments need to conduct a survey of all these homes, and wherever there are adult women who are detained against their will, they should be released. The fifth direction which is passed is about possession of condoms, which was often seen by the police as evidence that this person is engaging in sex work. The court has said nothing doing. Condoms are occupational health and safety provisions, and they cannot be treated as a crime or as evidence of a crime. And then lastly, the court said that sex workers are in court proceedings under the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act. Each time the police say conduct a raid and sex workers are pulled out, they are just treated as objects, and therefore the court has tasked the legal services authorities at the national, state and district level to inform sex workers about their rights and to make sure that they have access to justice and access to remedies, both in individual cases as well as overall as a community.
The court's order unleashed a wave of strong reactions from different sections of society. Let's listen in.
We are very happy. For the last 27 years, we've been fighting for the law to recognize sex work. Sex workers should have the exact same rights as any other person.
If the Supreme Court considers our client, those who are seeking our services, to be criminals, then how will this business work? The court must take care of that aspect as well.
A right to life is meaningless unless that life is with dignity. And a citizen includes a sex worker. A sex worker is no less a citizen of this country than you or me.
Earlier, the police could arrest a woman if they found a stack of condoms in her purse. Now, this won't happen. It is a good move.
Whatever was happening was not correct. There was a need to change it. Sex workers needed to be treated equally and with respect.
Firstly, they should know that they are the protector of law, and law said every human being is equal. Why they should treat sex workers differently when they are in trouble? They are already victims of, and then when they go to the police, they don't give protection to them, and in fact they treat them differently, which is totally no, and that's why the sensitization is required.
Everyone needs a livelihood. Everyone needs money to live. People work in different fields. Hence, sex workers performing their services should also be considered as work.
The next hearing of the case is scheduled to happen on the 27th of July 2022. The question is, will it be a landmark ruling?
Even if I was to bring a law to change this, even tomorrow, if the state union government says we'll bring a law to change it, it takes society. You see, there are certain things which can't be done only by law. Society has to change its way of thinking also. And thinking doesn't change overnight. Thinking has to be changed from within. No government can force me to change the way I think. And that, I think, we need to become a more broad-minded society.
A society where sex workers can live with dignity, where they are not exploited and abused, where they can enjoy fundamental rights like any other citizen. Can this ever become a reality? The seeds of transformation have already been sown by some good Samaritans who have taken it upon themselves to help sex workers. WION visited some of the biggest red light areas in India to bring out stories of these change makers. It is just another regular day at this 24/7 care center. These children are being taught the basics of mathematics. Called Society for Participatory Integrated Development. The Learning Center is located in New Delhi's largest red light zone, Swami Shraddhanand Marg. Established in 1991, the center provides care, nutrition, and education to the children of commercial sex workers.
Children in the center, speed SMS center, children stay 24/7.
Besides creating a safe haven for children, the center is also striving to improve the social condition of sex workers living in this area.
ललिता मैडम से आधा हमारे पास हमारा कोई प्रूफ नहीं आता दिल्ली में आज टाइम
When I came to Delhi, I didn't have any identity proof. Lalita helped me with all essential ID cards like Aadhaar card, marriage certificate and PAN card. She also helped me by securing a ration allowance for me for 2 years.
At present, SPID SMS is home to 75 children who live in the center, unaware of harsh realities of the outside world.
When children are grown, very rare children visit this area to meet mothers. But they will ask, even now who are in job, they tell me, a few of them, ma'am, I am in Delhi, I want to meet. Sure, we fix the place outside the GB road. I go, if mother already is in the brothel, I take the mother also, and we meet outside in the restaurant or some park, or according to the season or according to the timings. And we come. So society is not accepting. I request my society people, they are the children. They have not made any mistake.
We are now inside Asia's largest red light district, Sonagachi, located in Kolkata, West Bengal. Founded by a public health scientist, late Dr. Smarjit Jana in 1995, the Durbar Mahila Samanvaya Committee, which is known simply as Durbar, is a collective of 65,000 sex workers in the region.
Sex workers have a lot of issues. If they have any legal problems, they can't go to the police station, as they don't take them seriously. So we thought we should begin with an advocacy campaign and educate them about how to tackle these issues. There are many sex workers who don't have any proof of identity, so we help them with it.
Sex workers are vulnerable to all kinds of health problems, including sexually transmitted infections, HIV, AIDS, unintended pregnancies, violence, and drug addiction. To empower the sex workers of Sonagachi, Durbar runs a medical intervention program, conducting regular checkups of these women and educating them about their sexual and reproductive well-being.
So we encourage the girls, the women, to come here regularly. So for a 6-monthly blood test, it's a screening mainly done for HIV and syphilis. And also we check them every 3 months to see if they have any sexually transmitted disease like any discharge, any other problem for which the blood test is not possible.
The committee also established a residential academy for the children of these sex workers and other marginalized socioeconomic communities. The Durbar Sports Academy was formed with a vision of nurturing their sporting talent, particularly football. But the non-profit also helps in integrating these children into mainstream schools, a feat that was considered impossible in the beginning.
I am a sex worker and I have 2 sons. Both of them play football. My elder son is in college and my younger one has passed class 10. That too by securing first division. The Durbar committee has played a big role in this. There was a time when getting our children enrolled in mainstream schools was so difficult because of the requirement of a father's identity. Now, with the Durbar's assistance, we have been able to enroll our children in school with just the mother's identity proof.
Our next stop is Budwar Pet, the largest red light area in Pune, Maharashtra. We find this group of mid-aged women trying to polish their language skills. Their enthusiasm is palpable, and so is the energy in the room. These women belong to Saheli Sangh, the only sex workers collective operating in Pune. In Hindi, Saheli means a friend who is a girl. It's a collective that aims to empower the highly vulnerable community by building legal awareness among sex workers.
sex worker is the highly marginalized community. Nobody wants them. Even though they are part of the community, nobody wants them, nobody accepts them as human beings and part of the society. They have very peculiar needs. Their issues are multi-layered and very complex. So it is very necessary that they come together and speak for their own rights and their own issues. Because unless they come together, they become empowered. There is no solution for their various issues, including their families, their children, their partners and all.
Saheli Sangh has given us a lot of support. They tell us that we are also human beings and have the right to live well. They tell us that we must not live in fear and fight for our rights. Saheli has always stood with us and helped us with all kinds of problems.
Children of sex workers typically live in deplorable conditions. Strangers walk in and out of their lives. They are exposed to violence and misogyny and are at constant risk of abuse themselves. Saheli Sangh provides educational classes and support for these children, helping them break the vicious cycle of exploitation. Vanita is a member of this collective. She says the economic needs of her family forced her into prostitution.
It is a good thing that the Indian government said that sex work should be treated as a profession, but it is society that dishonors our work. We don't sell our bodies, we only provide a service. Sometimes the customer is happy with our service and gives us extra money. We run our families with this income.
Today she has come to terms with it, but she rues the fact that society shuns her.
5 years ago, I thought of leaving this trade. I started working at a hospital. I used to carry out my duties sincerely. I worked there for almost a year. Then one day, a customer told my employer that I am a sex worker. My supervisor terminated my job, citing the reason I live in a red light area. I told my supervisor that at the time of joining the job, I had submitted my Aadhaar card and PAN card which had my residential area. I asked him, "Why didn't you question me about it back then?" My supervisor said that I would have to undergo a police verification process. I kept doing the rounds of a police station but couldn't get the verification done. I want to ask, we want to leave this job and take up something else as a livelihood. Will society let that happen?
तो मैं इतना पुलिस चौकी में भी बहुत घूमी हूँ तो मेरे को पुलिस वेरिफिकेशन नहीं मिला तो आप बताओ हम इधर से धंधा छोड़ के काम भी लगेंगे किधर भी करेंगे तो हमको जीने देते हैं क्या?
When it comes to questions of legalizing prostitution, scholars and feminist groups are deeply polarized. But what about the women themselves? If only we cared to look closer into their eyes. Would we not see their aspirations of living in a more just, equitable, and freer society? Or is it easier to simply turn a blind eye?